Hello and welcome to the latest from from Hearts Standard. Sorry, I just reading the comments. Um, my name is Joe Sked. I am joined by James Kearney. We are 5 minutes late. Because on this occasion, James was late to the party. So do you want to apologise to our listeners, James?
Yep, very sorry, everyone. I thought it was 1:45. Didn't even realise. So
Well, there we go.
apologies to
There we
keeping
go.
everyone waiting.
It's fine. You have spent most of the videos that we've done waiting for me, so you're allowed one every now and then. I'm just reading one of the comments. On a scale of 1 to 10, how angry will James be if Scott Fraser doesn't sign?
Yeah, I think somebody else in the comments said it. Graham said it. 11. Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much. Yeah. I'll be very upset.
Yeah,
That's because I was released as like, here's what Hearts could have got.
missed. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're here. We'll talk a wee bit about Fraser later on in the show, but we're here mainly to talk about the Aberdeen game from the weekend. Heart of Midlothian won 2-0 at Tynecastle on Saturday. That means that Stephen Naismith's side are third in league, 10 points ahead of fourth place Kilmarnock. Hibs and Aberdeen are much further behind, which is great viewing off the league table when you've seen it on Saturday evening. We'll talk about that game just now, and then we'll go on to talk about Dhanda and a couple of other transfer-related bits of business that that have happened today. So, starting off with the Hearts Aberdeen game. You have watched it back. There's put up an excellent piece on the website this afternoon, just breaking down the fact that it was for the second time in a row in a league game, and for the third game at Tynecastle, largely kind of like a game of two halves.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that you look back at the last 3 games now at home, and the common theme has always been Hearts have started poorly, arguably been in the wrong setup to begin with. I think perhaps, although that's easy to say in hindsight. But then to Naismith and the coaching team's credit, on every occasion as well, I think the team's responded really well to that. Obviously, the game against Aberdeen is a bit different in that not only did Hearts not concede, but they went 2 goals down at halftime, which made a nice change. Although, let's be honest, it could have easily been 1-0. I think that goal was right to get chopped off, but obviously there's not much in it, and that could easily go in. Another referee might look at that and that goes in. And yeah, Hearts weren't good to begin with. They weren't good at all. You touched on it as well when you looked at the data from the match, but first 30, 35 minutes or so, Aberdeen are comfortably the better team. And there were a whole host of reasons because of that. But the main thing I kind of thought, looking back at the game and watching it again, was the fact that their pressing from the front was really good. They were basically going man for man. And like we've talked about before with the back four, opposition teams can do that to you. Whereas if you've got the back three,
it's harder.
It's a lot harder because you've also got the number 6 and the 2 wing backs involved there. So there's just more options. So I think that was a big problem in that Hearts just couldn't really get build out and get going to begin with. It took them a wee while to figure out how to get around that.
Yeah, I was certainly bemoaning it on Saturday. I was really frustrated, and I'm sure I turned around to you at one point and just going, we should have started with the back three. I told you we should have started with the back three. That's why we should have started with the back three, because we were both convinced that Hearts would stick with the back three and then maybe change if required. And then it was after about, it must have been after about 15 minutes, I think. Naismith turned around at the bench and got Vargas to warm up, and he was joined by a few others, but it was Vargas who was doing the most amount of kind of warming up, and it looked like he was like he there's every chance he could come on at any point. And
just on that, I think crucially he was only wearing shorts, whereas the others were wearing trackies or something like that. There's something about their attire that made him stick out like a sore thumb. I'm sure it was that.
Yeah, well, absolutely, it was. He was only one wearing shorts, and he just looked like he was primed to come on. So I asked Naismith about it after the game, and he did say he wasn't very happy with what he was seeing, but if he needed to make a change, he would have done so in the first half. And then when you look at we'll obviously come on to that more detail. We were both expecting changes to be made at halftime. I thought Neuenhoff would stay in. I thought he was. You look at the two sides of the midfield. So it was obviously was a midfield three, but it was Benny and Neuenhoff were. they didn't look like a partnership in midfield. They were there was large gaps. They kind of didn't. When Aberdeen won the ball, there was large gaps for them to expose. And like if Benny came out across one point, Callum Newhoff would have been the other end of the pitch, and kind of vice versa. And I thought Benny got a lot of stick. Speaking to mates, listening to guys at the game, seeing on social media. But I felt he was kind of still trying to contribute. At least he was getting on the ball. He was. It might not have been coming off. He did win the ball back a few times. Don't think any other player on the pitch won more tackles than Benny. But Neuenhoff, I just thought he just kind of just existed on the pitch without actually doing much. He got much better after the first half, but I did allow the struggles in midfield. I thought allowed Aberdeen to really take hold. I thought Shinnie, for example, the first 30 minutes, he was dominant in that in the game, in and out of possession. And then that's kind of Naismith said they were, in terms of the fight within the game, Aberdeen were on top. And Shinnie's presence and Conor Barron's presence, I thought they helped Aberdeen get a foothold and control the game higher up the pitch. But crucially, they didn't take advantage of it, and it allowed Hearts to make this sufficient changes to then dominate.
No, I think that's right, because when you look at it, like Aberdeen, a lot of the time they had the ball in really promising positions, kind of getting into the final third. Maybe they're basically man for man with Hearts' back line. You kind of think, all right, well, one guy beats one guy, and all of a sudden you're clean through on goal. But it didn't really happen like that. There weren't that many clear-cut chances for them. I think you're right. I don't think they made the most of the positions they got into, but they did get into really good positions a lot, which has to be a concern. I think you're right about Benny and Neuenhoff as well, in that generally what would happen if Aberdeen were pressing it, were playing out from the back, they'd get it, pass it around the back line, wait for Grant and Shanklin to go up and start pressing, but then they'd also wait until a third player came up. It was normally Neuenhoff or Beningame. And at that point, they just lob it into midfield, where you've got then just one midfielder left to try and cover a huge area of the park. It's normally got 2, 3, sometimes 4 Aberdeen players in there. So no, there's definitely a ploy to basically just kind of eliminate Hearts' midfield, and it did work for a long time. It did, as the game wore on, particularly in the second half, we saw Hearts getting wise to it, where there were even times where when a long ball would come forward, they wouldn't even challenge for the initial ball. And instead, you've got 3, 4, 5 Hearts players nearby who are just focusing on the second ball. Just only worry about that, because that was something particularly during that first half where Aberdeen were winning all of them, absolutely all of them.
There was a guy,
Jenny was just everywhere. He was just winning them constantly. And there were a couple of points where Beningame was really guilty, I think, as well, of pressing really high at the park, getting caught out. And then, to be fair, one of them he recovered and made an absolutely superb tackle.
Brilliant,
Again, you could say Shinnie should probably play that pass a wee bit earlier. He shouldn't be getting caught like that. Even still, brilliant tackle. But even just a few minutes before that, again, there was a thing where he charged up the park, got cut out by Shinnie again. It was Shinnie drives up the wing, plays it infield to Leighton Clarkson, again, who's just in acres of space right in the middle of the park, nobody within 20 yards of him. So I think there were huge gaps in the Hearts midfield that Aberdeen did well to kind of fashion. But I think as the game wore on, Hearts became more and more wise to it. And particularly after Hearts got that goal, got ahead, all of a sudden the whole dynamic of the game flips. All of a sudden it's Aberdeen who have to try and seize the impetus, try and seize the initiative. And at that point, Hearts never really looked back, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you made a good point about the second balls, because the first half hour there was a boy. I'm just trying to work out the sections in the main stand. I think it was section S, the one beside the media, where we sit in the media section. He must have said second balls about a dozen times within the first half hour, and he was right. It was really frustrating to watch. But
I think that was Willie Miller. He was sitting next to me on the BBC.
He was when Miovski scored that goal, he was loud. He enjoyed that. He very much enjoyed that. But yeah, a couple of things that you touched on, how the game progressed. I talked about it being a game of 2 halves. You were actually correct in your piece on the site to say it was actually kind of a game of 3/3, because
just about, aye.
Yeah, it was like the first 30, 35 minutes, it was very much all Aberdeen. Hearts came in back into it towards the end of the half. It was quite even start second half. And the game-changing moment was there was a penalty that for handball and Nicky Devlin, which George Grant stepped up and scored. But I think you saw the real difference between Hearts and Aberdeen, and you could even say Naismith and Robson. I think Naismith is more switched on tactically, is more flexible. The Hearts themselves are more flexible. They can flip between different systems, different styles, and that I think we've seen that over the last couple of months, just where things have had to change, and he's done it. Whereas you just look at Aberdeen, I think they are largely one-dimensional because you actually look at it, they had more shots than Hearts, but they had one shot on target the whole game. And when Hearts got in front, I never really thought that Aberdeen, no matter what they did, were going to get back into it.
No, exactly. It's that thing again where they were getting into good positions. Like, they get in the final third, they've got bodies forward, and then it'd just be a poor cross into the box or a bad pass, or Kingsley just intercepting it, because he did that a lot as well. Mm-hmm. Again, particularly watching it back again, it's like he's just, again, fantastic performance from him. So yeah, I think that Aberdeen were quite one-dimensional. I do think that they did struggle, even when they were on top, they still struggled to fashion opportunities, and part of that's down to Kent and Kingsley both.
Absolutely
Brilliantly. They both had excellent games. But part of it as well is just maybe a wee bit lack of nous on their part, I think, on Aberdeen's part. So you're right. I mean, Aberdeen, as soon as Hearts took the lead, at that point you could just see around the players, like everyone's just looked a lot more calm, and crucially as well, they started to get just doing the right things when they were on the ball, because again there were a couple of points, and I kind of touched on this in my analysis piece, where in the first half Grant kind of shifts the ball, has the ball, shifts it out to the right hand side. The first time it's Oda drives forward, and he's got to play it back to Grant for the cutback, and then Grant can just kind of sweep it in. He doesn't, he hits a shot instead and it deflects. And then again a few minutes later, a similar position, this time Lembakisa gets the ball out right. He tries to slide it in towards, he tries to slide through Oda, but Oda's actually dragging the marker away basically to leave Shanklin free at the near post. If it's just a quick inside ball, Shanklin can just prod it in. So there were a few moments like that going forward where it was like, Hearts were almost getting there. Just that last final ball was lacking, which again is something we've seen a few times, but certainly towards the end of the first half, those little moments started creeping in. And I've got to say as well, for when you look back at all the chances that Hearts created during the game, or all the best chances that Hearts made, there's one guy who's involved in every single one of them, and it's George Grant. I thought on the day, he played well. Watching it back, he was excellent. He was really, really great, and he was that really crucial player that Hearts fans have been crying out for a lot at times this season, of just linking the midfield and the attack, getting the ball, carrying it, shifting it on, driving forward. I thought he was absolutely brilliant at it yesterday. I thought it was one of his best performances this season for sure.
Would you say that as a whole, or would you say mainly the second half? Because like Graham says in the comments, until the goal, I thought Grant was really quiet, as was Shanklin. But after Penn, they both got better. And then in the first half, I would say
first half as well. Actually, to be honest, okay. Again, I think the chances that Hearts did create or almost created in the first half, like the best passages of play, again, Grant was pulling the strings right at the heart of them. I thought he took the ball in well, knew when to run, when to release it, how to draw the man towards him, and more often than not, pick the right pass as well. So that I thought he was excellent. Again, on the day, I thought he was all right. Watching it back again, it's even in the first half, just being really composed on the ball, and just that absolutely vital link in between the midfield and attack that, he might have some competition for it soon, but we'll get to that.
Grant's a really interesting one. He is. I think everyone can see that there's talent there, but he seems to be, up until now, and hopefully this is it changing. Up until now, he seems to be, with Hearts, he seems to be the nearly man. It's like just when you think he's going to have a big impact, something happens. Like early on in his career, he got sent off for a diving in Zurich, and Hearts went out in Europe. He'd get sent off later on that season, and he would be in and out of the team. He would play different roles. Now under Naismith, he largely plays the same role. It's either a 10 or an 8, but there's a lot of similarities to how they play, no matter kind of what role he's got under Naismith. And then it got to Celtic Park, where he was brilliant, as loads of individuals were. But then he had to go off with an injury, then missed a couple of games. So it's kind of just been stop-start his career. So, but I do think under Naismith over the last couple of months, we're starting to see the George Grant on a consistent basis that Hearts fans hoped they would be getting when he first signed in the summer of 2022.
And Joe, a part of it as well is the fact that he has been getting a consistent run of games recently, because obviously Lowry's back to Rangers, Barry Mackay's out injured. Yeah. There's no Scott Fraser yet. There's no Yan Dhanda here. Like, he's the only real contender to play in that spot. I mean, we were both shocked when he was dropped for was it Dundee game? He came on at half time.
Yeah.
We were both couldn't believe it, because again, you look at it and go, he's the only player of that type in the squad at the moment. Surely he's got to start. And again, I think that even the Dundee game, I thought he was okay, fairly quiet, to be honest. Didn't do much wrong, didn't really stand out particularly either to me, but certainly on Saturday there, I thought he was Hearts' best player, possibly, even possibly ahead of like Kingsley or Kent. I thought the three of them were excellent. And again, it's coming at a point when Hearts do need to rely on him. Certainly they've had to do it for the last few games. They might well have to do it for the next week, the next couple of games as well. We don't know. But with that kind of responsibility, he's clearly relished it, because I think he's putting in really good performances. And like I say, I think that arguably Saturday there might even been his best. I thought he was brilliant.
And he capped off with a wonderful, wonderful penalty, having taken over from Shankland, who then pushed him out the way to score the second goal. I mean, it's just there's nothing really much else to say about Shankland. He had a few nice touches. wasn't his best game, but then he just does that. And I know this is like putting my nerdy specs on, but I was looking at it, and I think this is going to be a piece that we'll probably run at some point this week, and just looking at how good Shankland is at taking chances with a very, very low value, kind of expected goals value, and turning them into chances which, once he hits them, are more than likely to end up in the back of the net. And it's just his ability to score so many different goals from so many different angles and so many different areas. Even like Saturday, where you think you've seen every single goal he's scored, and then he comes up with a different one.
But then even that one was quite similar to, was it St Mirren? Tynecastle. It was quite a similar one, was it?
So that was more. That was kind of like an angled one in the top.
It's slightly similar sort of technique, though, right? I mean, I might be getting myself mixed up here, but I mean, yeah. What can you say at this point? It is wonderful. I mean, at that point, just on him kind of shoving Grant out the way, does that count as an assist for George Grant? Then we counting that?
I think so. That was a chat after as Grant walked away from his media duties, that he was going to be claiming an assist
on a play.
Yeah. Individually, I don't think there's much else to add, because like Kent, you mentioned them. Kent and Kingsley, I've written about them we've written about them a couple of times in the last few days. They were sensational.
Yeah.
Really nice balance to them, and I thought they over the piece were two of the most consistent best players that Hearts had. I suppose the two questions I've really got left for kind of looking at this game is, what's your preference, the back three or back four, having seen bits and bobs from the last few games where we've played different formations?
Well, so the back four, I get to see a lot more goals. It's fun for me. I've not got any skin in the game. That's grand. Yeah, that's brilliant. I think, though, the back three, I think for most games, it's how Hearts should be starting at the moment. I think it just provides such a strong platform that it gets them to kind of get control of the game, really gain a foothold in it. And okay, yeah, I absolutely, the more work has to be done in the final third. It definitely does. But I just think it's a good jumping off point. And then, like we saw against Dundee, like we saw against County as well, I think. If you're down at the break, you need to change things up. You can still do that. It's not the end of the world. So, and to be fair, even with the players that you tend to have in the 3-5-2, you could probably just about get away with changing the shape around without actually having to sub anyone. Like, just Cocker into midfield, etc. So, Yeah, no, I think that should. I do prefer the back three. I think it's better for Hearts' chances of winning games, even if it isn't quite as much fun.
And kind of just touching on that ever so slightly, someone asked. I'll bring up the question. Someone asked about. It might have been Graham. Just saying, it's frustrating how slow we start games, and it takes the second half for us to respond. I think it's a hard one to ask. Sorry, a hard question to answer in terms of why it happens. I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know, but I do know that Naismith preaches patience within his team. He gets them so they don't panic. They just keep doing the same things, and then if they stick to the plan, it'll come good in the end.
No, I think so. I think as well that hang on, sorry, what's the question? Sorry,
it's right at the top. There you go.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think that the main thing though is like the fact that Naismith is making changes at the Hearts are tending to finish games stronger, which is presumably I know it's not one or the other situation, but you'd much rather start games poorly and finish games strongly than the other way around, because otherwise you're not going to win much at all. So again, I think that it's definitely a concern that Hearts do tend to start slowly, particularly at home as well. Like that is a trend. I don't think no one could deny that. Yeah, it needs to be better, but at the same time, if I was a Hearts fan, I'd be very encouraged by the fact that Naismith has now got a good track record of quite a few games this season where Hearts have not been doing very well. He's noticed what's wrong. He's made some changes, and then Hearts have won, often as a direct result of those changes. Yeah. So again, I look at that and I see that more as a sign of encouragement rather than something to be overly concerned about.
With my Hearts fan hat on, which is very rarely gets taken off. I like that control away from home. I think it's kind of good to start games and you ease yourself in. Whereas at home, I'd probably like the team to play maybe a bit more chaotic from the start and just be more direct, be more aggressive, and play quicker. Just increase the tempo, and if that means kind of just turning the opposition and playing a few long balls in behind, and then just getting that foothold and foundation, get the fans on board straight away, playing higher up the pitch, and then going into kind of control mode. I think that's a potential way around it with kind of looking at it in very, very basic terms. And I suppose moving on to the final, the last question I was going to ask about this game, this result. How far away are Hearts from securing third place?
I mean, right now it doesn't seem too far away. I mean, realistically, still a while. And I'm kind of a believer in the maths of it all. So like post split at this stage, I think that because you never know what can happen. The wheels can come flying off, as Hearts fans know only too well. There can be dramatic downturns in form, and all of a sudden your healthy really lead can evaporate over the space of a really bad month. So yeah, I don't think fans can start renewing their passports quite yet, or start booking the time off in the holidays for the fixtures for next season. But you have to say the Hearts are in an excellent position. It's certainly theirs to lose. I mean, there's very little, I think, at this stage that it would take Hearts would have to chuck it away at this point. Even if Kilmarnock, even if Aberdeen, even if Hibs all perform better than expected between now and the end of the season, that's still not enough unless Hearts really drop the ball, which they don't look like they're going to do. But
no. I think this squad compared to last 12 months ago is in a better position. Just the dynamics at play within the squad on the pitch. Who do you think the biggest challengers are at the moment? If you were to look over the shoulder and just go, who's you need to keep an eye on them. Who out of the, let's say, you got Kelly, St Mirren, Hibs, Dundee, and down to Aberdeen?
Well, it's got to be Kelly. Like it's not even close. Like they're like they can get big results against teams. Like Celtic, they've beaten Celtic twice this season. They've also got that excellent home record. They've got Daniel Armstrong, who's one of the most creative players in the league. They've got a very experienced manager in Derek McInnes, who knows exactly what he's doing, been in this situation plenty of times. And right now, Hibs and Aberdeen aren't particularly good either. So yeah, it's got to be Kelly. It's got to be.
Yeah, agreed. Right, we'll get to some of the transfer news and bring in some of the comments from the comment section. And we'll start for Yan Dhanda. Hearts have agreed a pre-contract with Dhanda, so he'll be coming in the summer. The club are still trying to bring him in January. However, Ross County are going to be determined to keep him. We've spoken about it, I think, on the show before, comparing Dhanda and Shankland. He's a big player for them. They're 11th in the league. They want to avoid the Premiership relegation playoff after their experience last season. So he'll be key to that. And to bring him in, I think it's a decent 6-figure fee to do so. So I think the way you look at it is Hearts are not desperate for him. Like you said, George Grant's there, and the team have got a very comfortable position in the league just now. So it's not as if Hearts desperately need to bring Dhanda in to transform or change the dynamics or change the if it's like a poor run of form. Well, I think we've both watched quite a fair bit of him. You did a piece looking at what he would bring to the Hearts team. Jordan Beaton asked, Dhanda next Paul Hartley, similar stature, takes free kicks. James, what can you tell me about Dhanda? Because we've seen his free kick prowess at Tynecastle. He's from dead balls. He's very, very good. You see him fitting in quite seamlessly to however Hearts play.
I think so, yeah. Particularly, I mean, obviously it depends on the system that Hearts are going for, but if it's within the 3-5-2 that we tend to see, I think, yeah, he slots in pretty naturally there. He's very good from set pieces, yes, but to be honest, it's more his open stuff. It's more what he does in open play that I think that really catches the eye. You know, he's very creative. He's got a great eye for a pass. I think he came through at Swansea City, their academy. I think back when they were a Premier League club, I think as well. So I think that he's clearly a talented player. He's one of those ones you're not quite sure how he's ended up at County in the nicest possible way. I think he's really technical, and importantly as well, he's got a lot of experience in the league. You know, he's been playing here for the last 18 months. He's excelled in that time. You look at things like his goals and assists in the first season, they were excellent. This season, not so great. Then you look at his underlying numbers and you kind of realise that actually it's maybe because, Jordan White maybe isn't the most lethal finisher in the league, things like that. I think you look at his underlying stats like expected assists and all that, progressive passes, deep progressions. He ranks really highly in those compared to other players in the league. So, yeah, I think he's definitely a player that makes a lot of sense for Hearts to sign. Like you say, a Bosman makes the most sense, particularly a Scott Fraser. If Hearts can't get that Scott Fraser deal over the line, if the Fraser deal falls through, for instance, and then Hearts really need to, I think they probably do another attacking mid at that point. Maybe they do have to push through the January move for Dhanda, but I don't think there's any particular rush. And the other thing as well, of course, is that kind of similar to Hearts with County, with Shankland, County aren't in a position where they have to sell. They've got Roy McGregor bankrolling them. They don't need the money. They'll be fine anyway. So it's that way of going, right, it's actually it might take a fairly sizable fee in the end. Like I don't know. I've seen figures bandied about. I've no idea about any of them, I'll be honest, but it's one of those things, like he's a key player for Ross County. Their league status means more to them than a couple of $100,000 or whatever it is. And it might be difficult to get him in January. But having said that, if the Fraser deal falls through, then it might have to happen. Who knows?
Yeah. I think that's the big thing. Fraser, there's not really the last time I was aware, there's not really any update on that. Charlton are still being Charlton. Fraser, it seems, still in Scotland. He's still pushing for a move. Still wants to come to Hearts. Naismith still wants him at Hearts. It was interesting that Naismith spoke about him as a long-term possibility, and that they looked at signing him in the summer as well. So he's been on Hearts' radar for a while. And like Callum asks, do you reckon it's Dhanda or Fraser, or do you think happy to get both this window? I think maybe not both this window. I think if Fraser came in, that takes even less pressure off of bringing Dhanda in. But I think longer term, then it seems like Hearts would be happy to have both of them within the squad. If you look at it, kind of replacing Alex Lowry, and it gives obviously Alex Lowry left, but also just gives you more options within different formations to play different players. And Fraser, I think, and Dhanda, I think Danda's probably more someone you want to play as a 10. You want him further up the pitch, whereas Fraser, I think, could be a bit more flexible in terms of the role he plays in the midfield three. Would you agree with that assessment, or would you say they're both, because you've studied both of them, would you say they're both kind of just mainly number 10s?
No, I think Scott Fraser has, from the clips I've seen anyway, in the matches of the games I've watched and stuff, I think that Fraser does look a bit better, a little bit deeper, particularly playing on the left-hand side. I think that his best performances down south came for MK Dons, and again in his standout season, it was when they were playing a formation which is very similar to the one that Hearts are playing just now. I think it was like a 5-3-1-1 rather than a 5-3-2, and he was one of the threes. And he's kind of playing on the outside left, so he's used to having that kind of central attacking midfielder playing ahead of him and having that space to advance into on the left-hand side. He's got a brilliant left foot on him. His crossing delivery is excellent, particularly when it's just those kind of little dinked crosses at the edge of the box rather than, big hoof balls to the far post or whatever. The kind of balls that somebody like Shanklin feeds off of and just absolutely loves it. So I think that, yeah, I think that they can both conceivably fit into the same starting 11, but I would imagine most weeks it would be a case of one or the other, probably. And in terms of January, again, I agree with you. I think if Hearts get Fraser in, I doubt Dhanda comes in. And then if they do get Fraser in, there's every chance as well. If he impresses, if he does well, there's every chance that gets turned into a permanent deal. Wouldn't surprise me.
Another big one that's happened over the last week or so, and even more so today with Barry Anderson reporting it. Grail mentions that Cochrane don't want Cochrane to leave, but have always rated Penrice. So Hearts, I think there's a lot of interest in Alex Cochrane, maybe not this window, but certainly probably looking towards summer. Hearts, according to Barry, have open talks with Penrice, who is currently playing with Livingston over a pre-contract agreement. Wouldn't be surprised, or I think there is interest elsewhere in Penrice as well. He is a versatile defender. I think with Livy, he's played left wing, left back, and centre mid, but he is mainly a left back. Am I right in saying he used to play for Partick Thistle?
Yeah, he came through at Thistle. I've seen him a lot. Spoken to him a few times. I interviewed him after games and stuff like that. I've always been a big fan of James Penrice.
Good.
It was unfortunate when he left. I think he left when we got relegated, though, so you can't really hold that against him. He was good enough to play in the Premiership, as he's gone to show. At Livy, yeah, he's been kind of in and out of the team, but he's always had that athleticism. He's happy getting up and down the wing. As like you say, he's played the left wing, he's played midfield. He's fairly technical on the ball. Now, I don't think either of those are his best position. I think he's a left back or a left wing back, but I don't know if he's quite got the physical frame for it. He's quite slight, he's quite skinny, but he's got a great delivery on him, good cross on him, and yeah, like I say, he's not shy of getting forward. So I think that if you were looking for someone to be in that kind of understudy to Alex Cochrane, even perhaps a long-term replacement for Alex Cochrane, you could do a lot worse than Penrice, because again, he ticks a lot of similar sort of boxes, and they're not a million miles apart in terms of the kind of the style that they play.
Yeah, he always, when Livy signed him, it just looked like a very smart side. And like you said, he's been in and out of the team, but I think over the time at Livingston, his importance has grown, and you can always notice that he's a very tidy footballer. And he's a good profile as well, because I think that was something that Hearts fans have been critical of. The club certainly mentioned around the time of the AGM regarding the recruitment is looking within Scotland and signing players to impress for other clubs. And this is what I think Hearts should always be looking around at who is out of contract at other clubs within the Premiership and going, right, he is a very good player for them. Can he do a job for us? If so, then yes, because he comes in, knows the league so well. Like, you look at Penrice, 25 years old, but has played nearly 200, and he's played, I think, around 275 matches. He's only really just turned 25 as well, yeah. So loads of experience. Because, like example, you compare him with Benny. Benny is the same age and has played. I don't think he's even reached 70 first team matches. So you just Yeah, I mean, just the kind of disparity. And Penrice will come in, and he's the type of guy that probably should hit the ground running. So again, it falls into the very sensible category. Especially look at Cochrane. He is a player. You look around the squad at Hearts in terms of players who have got who are an asset, who have got good sell-on value. Cochrane's one of them. He is, again, versatile. He's someone who's came through at Brighton, so he's got a very good grounding. He's a very good footballer. Physically, he's got good physical profiles, and from what I've kind of like speaking to people for the club, he's very, very professional. This is a guy who's got his sight set on returning to or playing at the highest level possible. So if Hearts can get, if we can get over 3 million, maybe 4 million for him, that would be an incredible bit of business. For this is a guy who's came on loan, then brought him in, and that's kind of the player trading that Hearts should be looking to do.
No, definitely. You know, like obviously nobody wants to see Cochrane leave. He's a good player and he's doing well and all the rest of it. But you're right. When you look around the Hearts squad, he is one of those players where you look at and go, Hearts should be selling him for a few million at some point, whether it's January, summer, the end of next season, whenever it is. At some point along the way, Hearts should be making money on that guy because, like you say, he's the right profile, he's the right age, but as well, part of it as well is that particularly if clubs in England are sniffing about, he's the right nationality in terms of squad registration rules and things like that, where that does really that matters a lot. That just by virtue of someone being English, that can double someone's price tag instantly. So the idea of Hearts getting some serious cash for Alex Cochrane one day, it's not totally far fetched at all. I think you're right. In terms of Penrice as well, yeah, I think certainly. I think he'd be a really savvy addition. Technically, he's excellent. Technically, he's very good. And then the bonus of when he's coming from Livingston as well, you don't spend 4 or 5 years at Livingston, whatever it is, under David Martindale if you're not willing to work your arse off. Yeah. He doesn't stand for that. So I think that's really encouraging as well. So I think he'd be a great player, but certainly on Cochrane, he's one of a handful of players when you look through that squad at Hearts, you go, he could certainly move for some decent money someday, because I think I've said this before, but this season I think there's an argument to be made that he's been the best left back in Scotland.
That's I'm just trying to think, because you look at I think I agree with that, because I was going to say
right.
Celtic, they've had real issues with Greg Taylor. It's neither Yilmaz or Barisic have really held down a place over the course of the season. Just trying to look who else. Nick Montgomery was bigging up Jordan Abita, nowhere near Cochrane. Aberdeen, nah. Yeah, I think you're spot on.
Yeah.
You're spot on.
I think it was probably Owen Beck, to be fair, but then obviously he's left now. Doesn't play in the league anymore. Doesn't count.
He might be coming back though, so but still, I think
until then, it's Alex Cochrane. Then let him enjoy his moment. He's maybe only got a week or so. I know he's not after.
So yeah, Cochrane, best left back in Scotland. We'll leave it there. I'll answer just one more question very quickly. Michael Evans asks, what's happening with Devlin, Mackay and Boyce? When are they expected back? So Mackay, the last time it seemed was towards the end of February, but I think that's a very generous assessment when Naismith's talking about it. I'm sure when he was
to get back in training as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think that was not even doing part of team training, that was just back out on the pitch.
Back out on the pitch, yeah. Because he still had, when I was at Riccarton or Oriam on Friday, I'm sure he still had his knee brace on. So yeah, that's if we see him middle of March, I think that would be good. But you never know with injuries. Devlin has stepped up. I think he was with a view to being back involved towards the end of February. I think he's kind of just stepping up his training, and he'll go on to full training, I think, in 2 weeks' time. And then Boyce, this is just one that's just been kind of carrying on. I think he's Hearts have not been wanting to risk him with his with the injury he's got. So yeah, that's the injury update on those three, but we might find out a bit more later on this week. But that's us. Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much for everyone who is listening, continues to read, continues to subscribe to Heart Standard. We'll be back later on in the week with a video. We'll have one probably Friday, looking ahead to the trip to Dens Park to face Dundee, and then one Wednesday or Thursday, depends on what James and I's schedule is. Obviously looking probably at the January transfer window, with the window shutting at, like, it's 11:30 p.m. on Thursday. So yeah, we'll probably be back around sometime those 2 days to kind of look at what's happening in the transfer window. But until then, thank you very much and goodbye.